Good morning. It is Sunday, 10:30 in the AM, and this is the Dadnarok Aftershow. We are here to talk about the finale of House of the Dragon, episode 3 of The Peripheral on Amazon Prime, and episode 8 of Andor on Disney Plus. Good morning.
There we go. Well, I'm Chris, and I'm assuming that's Sean sitting next to me here,
Yeah.
via camera here. Um, if you do like what we're doing here, make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Guys, we're trying to hit our goal of 500 subscribers. If you guys can help us along the way, we would greatly appreciate it. We are fully interactive as well. So if you have a comment or a question or anything about what we're talking about, go ahead and let us know. We go ahead and we address them live on the show. But like Sean said, we got Andor, Peripheral, and House of Dragon. Are these shows holding up? What do you think? Are they still holding your attention?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We'll get into it individually, but first off, you last week you were like, I hope they land this dragon. That is House of the Dragon. I think they did. So we'll
Yeah,
get
I put
into
up a
that.
little poll asking about it as well, so we got a little bit of feedback. But let's just go ahead and get into the House of the Dragon here.
You do not mean to act.
Taking caution does not mean standing fast. I wish to know who my allies are before I send them to war.
The consequence of my near demise in the Stepstones is that we now control them. I took care to fully garrison the territory this time. A total blockade of the shipping lanes will be in place in days, if not already.
There you
go. Well, what do you think of Corlys being back? I love the fact that we got Corlys back.
Yeah, we counted him out. It feels like the show kind of counted him out, and then he's back, and he seems, as far as Game of Thrones go. We watched Viserys just like rot away through a 10-year span on this show, the entire season. And I figured the same fate was destined for Corlys, but he seems okay.
He seems like he's in pretty good spirits.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was cool to see him back. And I also I picked that clip because there was a conversation between Corlys and Princess Rhaenyra. Not Rhaenyra, Rhaenys.
Yeah.
When he finds out that, Rhaenyra is kind of what's happening. And she's like, she's the only one that's holding the realm together. Everyone else around that table wants to go to war.
Right.
And she's the one that's acting calmly about the situation, even though it's basically it's her throne being stolen from her. She's the one that's kind of acting, like an adult.
Yeah. It was good to see Rhaenys come down on the side, because she's kind of been like riding the fence here the last couple episodes, especially. So it was nice between the, her partnership and her relationship with Corlys, of course, for them to talk it through and for them to finally come down and kind of pledge their assistance, at least, with the blockade of the, because that blockading King's Landing from goods coming across the ocean and stuff, that's a big deal. That's going to be a hard hit for King's Landing.
Oh yeah, they're going to go ahead and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot.
Blockading the Stepstones. So that's definitely a point in Team Black, right?
Yeah.
I was surprised, I guess not surprised, but it was just, you mentioned as far as like Rhaenyra kind of holding back and everybody else being game to like go. I felt like, how did you feel about this? I felt like it was the right move to because it'd been so long since the houses had pledged their loyalty to her. Like, you have to know who's on the board and who's actually on your side before you just jump into conflict.
Oh, I thought it was absolutely the right move.
Yeah.
And I love the fact when in that clip, she mentions how she wants to know who her allies are before she sends them to war. And I love how Rhaenys is in the back, and it's a very, very subtle thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you see her very subtly nod her head.
Right.
Like she is completely on board with what Rhaenyra is doing. She's like, she understands, because everything that her husband did when he went to war, he rushed into war. Him and Daemon rushed into war without really knowing the bigger picture. And this, when she's given that restraint, she's like, okay, I want to know who's on my side, like you said, and I want to know who I'm sending to war. I just don't want to send, cannon fodder in there.
Yeah. And the added fact of just like, well, she's not just going to roll over and, go with what the men in the room tell her to do. There is that part of it too, where there was probably some kind of fear because them being women and in a seat of power, just the expectation that like, is a woman going to be the one to truly have the final word in the room? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason Rhaenys was kind of nodding along, like approval, like, okay, maybe I can put my trust that she's going to handle herself well in this position.
Well, Rhaenyra had that scene with Daemon, where Daemon
Yeah.
kind of snapped on her, grabbed her by the neck. I was like, whoa.
Okay, so for me, I've been able to tread the line with his character and think he's still kind of like cool and stuff and like but this was a bridge too far for me, this scene, as far as just like me being on his side, I guess. How did you feel about that scene?
I thought it was aggressive. I thought it was
Yeah.
like you said, it was hard to watch. And I'm shocked that Rhaenyra didn't do anything about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm kind of
Well, yet. She didn't
yeah,
do anything yet.
there is yet. But then he's also in this episode. I'm guessing there's a second. I don't know the dragon's name, but there's a second dragon that is the second biggest dragon. That's just basically sitting in the dungeon, waiting for someone to claim him.
Yeah.
And Daemon goes down there, and you see the Daemon in the dragon's eye, and vice versa. They do both of those perspectives. So I'm assuming Daemon goes ahead and claims that dragon. But what happens to Syrax?
I know it's a little unclear. They added that scene for a reason, right? There's definitely this
Because
is
they
the
need
first
another
step.
dragon of the same size as the one that the Greens have.
Yeah, they're foreshadowing something. So I don't know if he's just kind of like trying to tame that dragon a little bit to prepare it for another rider, or if he's like trying to take on a second dragon himself. It's a little fuzzy at this point, like what his intentions are.
Yeah, I'm taking my thinking is he's going to take that dragon on, and then Syrax isn't going to have an actual rider.
Yeah.
That's
Maybe he thinks he's that baller enough where he can control two dragons.
I mean, it wouldn't put it bad. It'd be right in character.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But what'd you think of this episode? We really didn't get anything from the Greens. We got nothing from King's Landing. This was everything taking place at Dragonstone.
I'm okay with that because last episode was all the Greens and we got nothing from Rhaenyra's side of things. So I think the balance was right. I imagine that poster with the two of them back to back, right, standing in front of the Dragon Eye. The balance felt okay to me because I was very curious at the end of the last episode, like, okay, where do we go from here on the other side? What's going to be the response when Rhaenys shows up on her dragon to give the news that Aegon had been crowned in King's Landing?
Oh, I love how she
Um,
didn't bat around any bushes. She went right to
yeah,
it. She was like, "This is what
sh-
happened."
she
And this
did.
show, oh my god, so many childbirths
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
like
true.
gone bad too. It's like
Yeah.
there was so many correlations to this episode to like the first episode or two
Hmm.
of the season, from the child not making it to Rhaenyra landing on the bridge behind Aldo at Dragonstone,
Right.
and
Yes.
and walking through. There were so many like there through threads they were tying up in this episode, which I appreciate. I was like, okay, this is cool. I like how this is going down. And I mean, once again, the Cares would have taken care of half that bridge. They could have just fried that bridge.
I know during that whole scene, I was half expecting some of the Green's dragons to like fly up in the background and kind of because that's the difference here between this time and the last time that Otto showed up was that like I mean there's dragons on both sides now. So like I'm curious as to why maybe because if it looked like that they were showing up with dragons, it could have just been more of a chance of like ending in like serious conflict there at Dragonstone. Um and maybe a show of good faith by not showing up with dragons. But yeah, I have expected that whole time to just see because the like Allison's sons have dragons. Yeah.
Yeah, and pretty
So
much Allison. Well, I mean, one of Allison's dragons, Aegon, has the biggest one right now. So
mhm.
he's got a beast. So
Oh yeah, Aemond, the one with
A-
the eye patch
the
that we see
eye,
at the
yeah,
end of this
dude.
episode, which we got to get into.
Oh man, that shot when one of I'm terrible with the kids' names.
It's Lucerys, the one that dies.
When he flies in and lands, and in the back when the lightning strikes, and you see the dragon in the back, that was some like a freaking. I heard someone say it's like almost kaiju-ish.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was like, whoa, because then at this point, we know it's a big dragon. We haven't got any size comparison
Uh huh.
to other dragons. So when you see it side by side, you're like, ooh, he's a biggin.
Yeah, he is, especially when you see him flying through the air. And I think Lucerys's dragon is even kind of a young one, so it's on the smaller side.
Yeah.
So yeah, that fight at the end, not only was it like shot well, the effects were great, the pacing, the editing, but just like I guess the storytelling too. Like it's giving us an inkling that just like Viserys said earlier in the season, I think it's folly to think that we control the dragons. We don't. And you
Yeah.
can see they lose a bit of control there. Well, from both dragons, the younger dragon goes and like,
Hits him with some
flies in
fire.
and spits fire at the other one's face, which pisses the other one off, and then he eats him. And then, that shot of Aemond just flying, and he's just like, "Oh crap! Well, what have I done?"
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, what did I just do? What just
Yeah,
happened?" The funniest thing I've seen on the internet around that whole fight is Eamon going home and immediately watching DreamWorks How to Train Your Dragon. That was the funniest thing I've seen online when it came
yeah,
around that. But how do you feel about that being? I mean, essentially, that's the first shot fired. That's gonna put when the show ended and you seen Rhaenyra turn around and that look on her face, it's like, what is it? I'll have no wrath like a woman scorn.
yeah. That last shot,
Ooh,
we've got the fire coming through the table, right? The map
that
table, which is just
amazing table,
awesome.
though. That
Yeah,
table is fantastic.
the Dragonstone set is awesome, and that slow pan from the table to Daemon basically giving her the news, and it's in slow motion, and she does a little like her body does a little like movement, like she absorbing the shock, I guess, of the news, and then she steps to the fire and slowly does that reveal turn, and the camera pans to her face, and that's what we end on. And it's like that's all you need. You didn't even need any dialogue.
You
You know
needed
exactly
nothing.
where we're at. Yeah,
Just the look on her face, and that right there eliminates any type of like restraint
yeah,
that she was showing,
yeah.
because now Damon's going to get what he wants.
Right.
Damon's going to get a show of force when they're holding off that portion of the sea. They're shutting that. That's where the war is going to take place. The war's not going to take place at King's Landing. The war is going to take place at the mouth of that ocean area.
Hmm.
That's where we're going to see the big fight. So, oh man, we got to. And I just seen they just started filming season 2. Just
Oh,
started
really?
filming season 2. So now we got to wait basically in 2 years.
At least they're filming now. At least they, got it going. They got the machine rolling here.
Oh man, I don't know. I was when it was over. I was like, no. Now,
Yeah.
what did you think about the way that it ended? Because the general Game of Thrones show, we got a lot of like those bloodshed. There's a lot of those big things that happened.
Mhm.
We got a death, but not a death that I would consider massive. It's massive for the story,
Mhm.
but not massive for me. Because like I said before, I'm still not connected to these kids. Really.
Yeah.
There's parts of it, I mean, I understand. I'm like, okay, I get the points. I get the whole thing. If he was, if he had to slice out his eye, I'm like, damn,
Right.
but I'm still not hugely connected. I would have rather seen Otto maybe die. That would have hit a little harder because
Yeah.
that would have then sent Allison over the edge, and then you would have had both of them raging.
I don't know. Well, it's gotta follow the book, and I think Godot has, some more role to play here, but, like, I guess basically what you're doing is comparing this show to the Game of Thrones
Just the
proper.
season finale, pretty much. Yeah.
Right. She's found and this has been a wholly different show for me. Just like I mean, it takes place in the Game of Thrones world in Westeros, and but that's kind of where it ends. Like the families, as far as how this show is structured, it's so central around this family and this split between this family that I guess I wasn't missing it. I felt fine with it. Like I said, I mean, we mentioned that last shot
Yeah.
of the show, and it really just sets the table for like I can't wait for a season 2. And that's really what the job of a season 1 finale is. Like, oh
Hmm.
my god, what a way to cap off the season. I can't wait for season 2. If it did that, then it did its job.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not saying I didn't. I think it landed the dragon. I think it did
Yeah,
its job well. It
right.
went ahead and got me like jonesing for the next season, if not rewatching this season, because just preparing for our show and watching what I was watching, like, man, I want to watch this episode again.
And I tell you what, even though like Lucerys as a character, we barely got to know him as one of the kids, but how he goes out and the events that led up to that, and the chase through the sky, and how much like effort production wise was put into that kind of last dragon chase and the storytelling that happened and the look on Aemon's face, it was still satisfying. Even though him as a character, it's like we weren't really close to him. Everything else around that death was pretty satisfying.
Yeah.
As far
And
as like,
I
wow.
even though Aemon's on the side of the Greens, I kind of like Aemon.
Mhm.
He's got that Westeros feel to him. He has that brutal side to him, but he also has that very calculated side. And I think he's one of the most dangerous people in Westeros right now because he's smart.
Yeah.
And the fact that he knows he done screwed up.
Right.
And how is he going to go ahead and explain this to Otto? How is he going to explain it to his mother? Because as soon as he tells them what happened, they've got to be on the offensive because they know what's coming.
I know that's what I'm worried about is that when we pick up at season 2, there'll be some kind of like time gap. I want to see that scene. I want to see him like sheepishly show back up to King's Landing and have to explain himself.
Yeah.
Because that
I
seems like that's going to be a crazy conversation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a time jump, and we're not going to see it because
Probably.
I don't know. We may come into where the area is being under siege, and the
Hmm.
war has already started, and
Yeah.
we're going to be picking up from that point on. But I mean, only time will tell now. But I love this show, man, and my wife, who was not a Game of Thrones fan, loved this show.
Yeah.
So I think it did its job standing alone. It did what most people thought may have been the hardest thing to do. Because the final season of Game of Thrones is so divisive. Either you loved it or you hated it.
Yeah.
And we're a good picture of that because I enjoyed it more than you did.
Yeah.
So bringing everybody back to this world to a point where they love this show, I can't give a higher praise.
Oh, I agree totally. I mean, I had trepidation going into this show when I was announced. You and I talked about it on here where I was just like, I just don't care about Westeros and what's going on there. Even just like as a prequel, I'm like, well, why do I want to see events where it leads up to stuff that I know already and I know how that show ended and I didn't care for it. But I mean, this show is so, like you said, it stands its own ground so firmly that I'm a fan now. Like, I can't wait for season 2.
There we go, guys. Well, what did you guys think? Did you think it Lightning the Dragon? No, before I even get into that, I put a poll up asking everybody what did they think? If they liked it, was it just okay, or did they not like it? 70% of the people said they liked it.
Yeah.
We had, was it 10% or 15% each of the not liking, and then just kind of about it. So overwhelmingly, the people that follow us are saying they liked it as well, which I liked. I was like, okay, we got a little bit of feedback. I like feedback.
I
Feedback's
know
fun.
that's new for us, guys. We're able to put up polls and stuff. We hit 400 subscriber mark here recently, and I think it got to 412 by the time YouTube was like, "Okay, you guys want to do polls?"
Yeah, you guys want to be able to make posts and keep
Yeah,
your
kind
viewers
of.
up to date on things.
How about a
Here's
community
this.
tab?
So
So
guys,
that's
yeah,
fun.
keep your eyes out for that. We're going to do that more often. More often, we're going to see polls and things out there. But like I said, if you guys liked it, let us know in the comments. If you're watching live, let us know live. If you're watching recorded, drop them below. We respond pretty much to anything and everything that you guys like. Even if it's a negative comment, I will respond to your comment.
You sure will.
Sometimes snarkily, but we will
Yeah.
respond. So I think right now our next show that we will be discussing is a new one by Amazon, The Peripheral. So let's just go ahead and jump into that.
My town. So yeah, I guess I do feel pretty safe here.
Next one's in your fucking ear. That's my fucking stick.
Ooh, that's a big stick. Dude, what did you think of that, man? That took some kahunas.
I love that scene, especially how to kind of contrast how the show opens up this week with flashback to 2015 and Corbell Pickett, taking out those bikers by like locking them in those trucks or whatever. You see how ruthless that he is to open up the show, and that was,
with the crosses and everything. I'm like,
yeah,
oh man. Basically, he was a one-man gang that took over the town in
right.
that scene. I was like, man, that's I was one way to open the show. I was curious if I wanted to message you. This was like, dude, did you see how this opened?
Mhm.
And you were a little behind me, but whew.
Yeah, and it's I like that storytelling device though because it's like it hammers home again. Well, hammer.
Whoa.
It hammers home like how dangerous Corbell Pickett is. But for them to go into this scene where you think that Burton is probably on, is the underdog in this, but Burton comes away fairly clean and fairly badass himself. So it's kind of I don't know if Pickett fully understands who he's going against
I don't think he
in
has
this family.
any idea.
Yeah.
And I love the explanation of what Burton's character is, what the haptics are. I
Yeah.
love that the whole scene there with him sitting down and talking and we're like to Corbell, like, this is what's going on. I woke up in a bar and I beat the crap out of this guy. And I
Right.
had no idea, but my sergeant did, and he knew exactly who it was. So just that, and then when they actually show his haptics like on his wrist start kind of pulsating, and then he points his finger at the glass, and the glass is gone. I think it's so awesome that it's like they are a unit that operates as literally as one when they're
Yeah.
all kind of dialed in. It's probably one of the most dangerous things you can think of.
The show's funny too, and I kind of as I was watching this episode in particular, it's so unique how this show is like equal parts futuristic spy drama that you watch on like the BBC, like very British, out of London, right? All these characters speaking this like very proper English, very prim, pristine, but it's still like futuristic sci-fi and dangerous spy thriller. And then it's a totally different show. It's almost like the not too distant future Sons of Anarchy, where it takes place in North Carolina, I guess is where we got to
Is that
confirm
where it
state.
is?
Yeah. And it's like, but just like, Southern accents and, moonshine and methamphetamine and like drug running and people on motorcycles and like that kind of show. And somehow it blends together into this one thing. And I think it's like wholly unique. I've never seen anything else like it before.
Yeah, I agree with you. The balance of the two
Yeah.
is pretty fun. Like when oh, what's her name? I'm blanking on her name. His sister.
Flynn?
Yeah, Flynn. When
Yeah.
she's actually over in the haptics in the husk forward,
Hmm.
it's like she's talking to them and she's like, give me an hour.
Right.
And she disconnects and goes back and tells, everyone what's going on so they can get that right. So she's not killed while she's in the haptics.
Right.
So it's like going back and forth. Like something else I really liked about it. I mean, the show itself is called the Haptic Drift. We're starting to see it take an effect on her.
Hmm.
Like, how much can she do with this before it actually damages her nervous system, her eyes, her or whatever? Like, how much of the neural load can she handle?
I do like that too, just like the themes, just like the sci-fi elements, but there's themes of like feelings and like not only like physical feelings, but like emotional feelings. Like we're definitely getting a sense the story is telling us that there's some kind of like relationship that they're hinting at between Wilf and Flynn. That kind of started up this episode. Slow editing and music, you kind of feel those
Yeah.
vibes.
Is that
And they
why her
had the
character's not there in 30 years? Does she
yeah,
get mixed up
exactly.
with him and something happens and that's why she's not around and she's the actual husk now?
Right. And then after the fact, you have Burton talking to Flynn about, like you said, the haptic drift, and sometimes it even feels like love. So it's like, where's the line? The line is so blurred for her as far as what she's feeling, as far because everything's so real because it is real when she's,
Yeah.
in this suit in the future. It's just how they play with her own internal struggle when it comes to that stuff is really interesting too.
Well, yeah, I mean, she has what's happening in the future, and then she has her real life. She has that relationship with her and Burton.
Yeah.
I said it the last show. I feel like that relationship, brother sister wise, is one of the most real
Yeah.
in TV. Because, like I said, I understand, I can feel that there's love there, there's hatred there, there's trust there. Everything that you would have within a real family is there. And then
Yeah.
she's struggling with, okay, I this is going on with me. I got to tell somebody. She told her best friend.
Right.
She told Anne, her best
Billy
friend
Ann. Yeah.
what was going on. But she didn't connect the dots on who her husband's uncle is. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Burton is pissed because he's military. He
Yeah.
thinks these steps forward when Flynn isn't, and she's just like, I have to get some of this off my chest, which could be in the long run, it could hurt him.
Yeah, I swear that, this reveal the show made a reveal this episode. I'm pretty sure we didn't know that Billy Ann was married to Jasper. Were fairly shortly introduced to Jasper. Didn't even have any dialogue last episode, I don't think. But, like, when I went to IMDb, I saw that they both have the last name Baker. I'm like, "Oh, they are married." That's definitely something that I didn't notice or
I
was
don't
even
think they
presented
really
last time.
dropped it a whole lot before. We just really got introduced to Anne and
Yeah.
everything and the relationship between the two of those. We didn't really know who she was married to.
Right. Yeah. So that's an interesting dynamic too. It's just like Burton was right to call her out on it because it's like Billy Ann doesn't seem like the person to keep a secret anyway. But I mean, add to that it's her own husband that you're expecting her to keep a secret from. Like that's not going to work. That's not.
Yeah, and you're and it's a small town,
Yeah.
and word spreads like wildfire in small towns.
Yeah.
I mean, then also at the end of that scene that we played there, Burton and what's his name are shaking hands.
Oh, cool.
Jasper,
Pickett. Yeah.
yeah, Pickett are shaking hands, and then
Yeah.
you see the sheriff see it taking place, which is a family friend. It's like, okay, what is he getting in bed with him for?
Yeah, Macon, I think. Yeah, Sheriff Macon. He's the same guy that visited the spot last time, asking about the. Well, he's the one that came across the futuristic
Yeah.
invisible truck last time. So yeah, he's definitely figuring something weird is going on, and he's going to be more of a thorn in their side, I think.
Well, yeah. Well, whose side? Like, I don't know who's good and who's not. You know what I mean? I don't know. I still don't know the sides. Definitely in the future, I'm not sure what's really going on. We've seen Wilf, and now we know his sister is the one they're looking for.
Yeah,
So we know there's a dynamic there now. And we've seen their mom, and I felt super uncomfortable when they were going through and they were picking one of the two, the white girl, the black boy. I'm like,
oh, in the
my
future, yeah,
like my mind knew exactly what they were going to do,
yeah, yeah.
and
Those
they
those parents didn't seem very wholesome to
no,
me.
they're not at all.
Yeah, but they were basically, it was a flashback. It was Wilf's flashback. Yeah, it was a kind of a backstory to Wilf, and I'm thinking that the little girl was,
Anita,
yeah, Anita, the one that basically had was kind of the guide to their first entry into the. She
yeah,
she wasn't in this episode, but she was pretty heavily like
in
in
the
the
first
first two
two.
episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's exactly what it was. And there was a brother sister thing in there, and I love the whole thing how when Wilf was at home and his mom said, she just talks in riddles, and I was in the last place where it snowed in London.
yeah. They said Jon Snow. I was like, what?
Yeah, I caught that too. I was like,
Game of
well, I
Thrones
mean,
reference?
but yeah, my first thought was the Game of Thrones reference. I was like, yeah, hold on, this was probably written. Well, it was written after Game of Thrones, more likely. But I
Right.
mean, it would have been pretty cool if it was a little nugget.
Yeah.
But and then Flynn figured it out. She knew what all that meant, which I thought was a cool way to kind of end the show itself.
Who did we get? We got introduced to the character that we only just saw at the party the first episode. And it was kind of a kind of a teaser, like, oh, don't talk to her because she's like the Queen Linus around here. It
Oh yeah, I know
was
exactly.
let's see, the actual character's name is Charisse Newland, I think.
Oh,
And that
dude.
scene with the bees and like the stuff, like she's very formidable with this lady. She seems
Or
to have
when
like,
she's up on that tower and she makes the floor go in, that dude.
yeah, yeah.
I
She's
don't know what to like I said, I don't know what to make of the future.
right,
I don't know who's on the right side. I think Wilf is on the right side, maybe even like personally on the right side. But who
right.
he's taking the orders from, I don't know if they
They
are.
they seem sketchier and sketchier every time I see him. Yeah.
And yeah, and then there's Cherie that she's showing her power, but I don't know. And that's why I love the show. The
Yeah.
future part of the show has me so intrigued. I don't know what's going on. I don't know
Right.
who's good, who's bad. And sometimes those shows that have you confused aren't exactly good.
Right.
But this has me like enthralled in the future. But I love the present because there's such a different storyline and such a clear storyline
Mm-hmm.
taking place there, which I think balances out the confusion. When you have something that's really clear what's going on, we're protecting our family, we're making
Right.
sure this is happening. These are the bad guys here. They're trying to hurt us. And going forward from that, which I don't even know if that's really clear. I don't even know if there's going to be other factions that are going to show up.
I keep waiting as I was watching episode 3, and I felt this way a little bit the first 2 episodes, but I keep waiting for us to find out some kind of big reveal as far as how this particular set of characters in it's still our future, right? But like 10 years from the future.
Yeah.
How Flynn's present, how they relate to the people in the future. I feel like we're going to get some kind of lineage or some kind of thing where it's like people are actually related, or there's something going on here. There's got to be some kind of link because right now I think the only story we're getting is that, well, Flynn's very good at these sim video games, so that's why she's being tapped to do this kind of stuff.
Well, she
But
wasn't
that's
even
just
originally tapped because it was Burton that was tapped. And
well,
Burton let
yeah.
Flynn do it.
Well, it was Burton originally because they saw his scores, which were really her scores because she was logging in under his avatar.
Yeah.
So that's the reason that she's in play here. But it's like I feel like there's something more to that. They didn't just tap these people just because they were good at a video game.
Yeah. Well, I love how it kind of ended where Flynn got the upper hand
Yeah.
on Shuri. That pulse gun.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you've seen that one thing's eye kind of go in a triangle and you've seen her and then she hit her with that pulse thing too. I'm like, oh, this is gonna get nasty. Real quick, this is gonna get nasty.
And the guy says earlier, Daniel, the one I don't know if he died. It's a little unclear. I don't think they kill him, but Daniel, who's been kind of Shuri's lapdog, I guess, he says that, you think that I'm gonna hit you with this and then game over, you'll be fine, but there's lasting effects. And I think we're starting to see those lasting effects
Oh yeah,
in
we've seen her
Flynn.
eye.
Well, yeah, in both. In Flynn, when she's in the present and her hand keeps clenching,
Mhm.
I think that may have something to do with it. And then Cherie, when after she's hit, she's kind of strung, like her head's ringing a little bit. So I think when you're hit by this stuff while you're in kind of the haptics, it does have an effect on your actual physical body.
Do you think Cherie's in the haptics or is she an actual person in the future?
That's a whole nother dynamic to this show. Any one of these people that we know, literally in the future or not, could be in
Peripherals.
one of the, yeah, they could be. That's a whole nother thing. I'm waiting for that shoe to drop too. Like, who is not a real person?
Yeah, because when they were walking around in London, they had that guard
Yeah,
approach Flynn, and Wilf was able to talk them out of it.
yeah,
And it's like, okay, so we're seeing that she's not the only one there. There's a lot of other people that are like this, or they wouldn't have this type of security.
right.
So something else is going on. Who else? Like I said, who else is not actually there?
Yeah. You got to pay attention with this show. It's one of those ones where you'll be lost if you're not kind of glued to the screen. Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of people will tap out of a show like that. A lot of people like to be able to kind of look at their phones and kind of half pay attention to a show. This is not the show for that. I mean, you got to pay attention.
I had the urge twice to pick up my phone, but I had it for seconds.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, like if you lose track of what's going on, you're going to lose everything. It was one
Right.
of those, nah. But let's talk about that real quick. We talked about it briefly. Are these episodes too long? Is there too
right.
much?
When I paused, because I watched it this morning, actually, when I paused just to check in to see how long the episode was, and it was like, an hour 12, I was like, yeah, you can, I mean, there's got to be a way to cut this down to 50, 55 minutes. Yeah, they are taking their time for sure.
Yeah, because I'm almost feeling like, yeah, you can cut almost 15 to 20 minutes out of this episode,
Yeah.
condense it a little bit, and get the same result.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just feel like they're a tad too long. Like, I mean, they played out the scene where Burton is talking to his war buddy that shows up that has like one arm and no legs.
Connor.
Connor, when he shows up on the bike.
Yeah.
And there's that running joke. Oh, I got this hands down, or I'll give up my arm and a leg for something like this.
Right.
The whole thing, like they ran that joke like maybe 3, 5, maybe even 5 minutes long. That scene might have been 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
We could have gotten that in a minute and a half and still had the same reaction out of it.
That seems to be not only this show, that might be something to do with Amazon Prime as a total, because we just covered Rings of Power. That was only 8 episodes, but each episode was an hour plus. I think The Boys might even be that way, where it's like that might just be like their kind of standard as far as like formatting. Like each show is going to be, right around that hour mark or sometimes more, and it's kind of a longer show with a shorter episode count. That seems to be
Oh, I
what
think the
Rambo
same
seems
with
to
the
be.
Wheel of Time. I think the Wheel of
Yeah,
Time was very, very similar as well. So I never even connected the dots, but I mean that can very well be the case.
yeah.
I mean, that's the only negative thing I can say about it right now. It's just it feels like the runtime.
Mhm.
And I mean, like I said, that's about all I can think of. Anything that you can think that's kind of bugging you besides that?
No, I mean, that's really the only thing too. So far, I like the slow drip of information. I like that I have to pay attention because they give me enough each episode to feel like I'm learning more about this world, learn about both sections of this show. The futuristic sci-fi BBC show and the Sons of Anarchy show that we have going on here. Like I feel invested in both. I feel like each time that we go through it, both are a little bit more connected. We're learning a little bit more about this mystery. They'll answer a question and then ask two more. At this point in the show, when we're only 3 episodes in, I like that kind of stuff. But as we get closer and closer to a finale, and I'll start to want more of those questions answered as opposed to kind of dropping new
Yeah, let's
questions.
not play the lost card. Don't give us too many questions and not
Right.
answer anything.
Yeah,
Uh,
true that.
I want to address this too because I remember one of your criticisms of the first episode was the conversation between Flynn and Burton didn't feel real. It felt like a trope on way TV shows actually do the conversations.
Yeah.
Did their conversations feel any? Because when I was watching the truck conversation, I was remembering your thoughts. Did it
Yeah.
feel any better to you in those conversations? That they're more fluent?
No, I think the writing is what it is. The writing kind of feels like they wrote for a show that might air on CBS and then they just dropped some F bombs because they were going to be on Amazon Prime. And also I feel like the acting can be a little bit stiff sometimes. Maybe they could have used another take, but it's like it's minor because overall I enjoy the show as a whole, and like the concept and how unique it is has got me, hook, line, and
Yeah.
sinker. There are moments though where I catch myself looking like, oh, that felt a little network TV to me. It felt a little
That's funny.
NCIS.
Oh no, don't go NCIS on us. Ooh,
Hey, sorry.
that's a harsh criticism there.
Yeah. But
Okay,
overall, good.
okay, guys. Well, what did you think? Have you enjoyed it? I know some of you guys out there that have watched the last week's episode, read the book. Is it holding to the book? Do you mind when it strays a little bit from the book? It's an adaptation as well, so I mean, they kind of have to make it so we can know what's going on TV. So let us know in the comments. Let us know live. We have another show to cover. Don't feel free to go ahead and drop a comment, and we'll address it as well. But until then, we have one last show to cover, and I believe that one is Star Wars Andor.
Whatever our final version of success looks like, there's no chance any of us can make it real on our own. We need the Empire to help. We need them angry. We need them coming down hard. Oppression breeds rebellion. Krieger needs their support.
I'm not for hire.
Think of it. Think of Spellhouse in flames. Neither of you could do it on your own, but together...
Krieger's a separatist.
Dude,
We got him. Finally got him.
Finally got him. Now, how much are we going to get from him, though?
That might be it.
That's the question. This season, maybe. But, dude, I love seeing the X-Wings. Did you see the X-Wings before they actually went to the cave?
No, I missed that.
Yeah, so when they fly in and they're actually giving this shot of his guard,
Mhm.
there's 2 X-Wings sitting down there.
Oh, nice.
So there's going to be some type of air battle. They're leading on to Saul Guerrero doing something.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the end of Saul Guerrero. Seeing this is what, episode 7, 8? Episode 8.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get more from Saul Guerrero. Seeing that we may get him next episode, and then that may be the end of him for the season.
Mm.
Since they're giving us 3 episode blocks.
Right. There were 3 highlights for me this episode, and that was one of them. That conversation with Saul and seeing him for the first time. The second one for me was getting to see Cyril, his storyline meet up with the ISB officer. Why she? Oh, Dedra Miro.
Yeah.
Seeing those two storylines come together, and the third one being seeing Andy Serkis randomly.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I wasn't expecting him on this show,
He's
and
got
he's
like
just
200 and some days left of his sentence.
yeah, like he voiced Snoke, and if anyone know, I mean, Andy Serkis is legend. He's a great actor, but as far as like mocap and characters, like he's Gollum for Pete's sake, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
dude's terrific, and to see him randomly, be this kind of nothing cameo in this show is weird, but welcome, I guess. I liked it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it now puts him in the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah, his
It
face.
puts
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like how they'll add little things. Like, if they just add someone for a second, it gives them the ability to bring that character back at any given time, which
Right.
I think is pretty cool. Dude, this episode, I love this episode, and I dislike this episode at the same time. This was for me, it was very divisive.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting to the point. So, okay, I'll put it. You brought up Lord of the Rings with Gollum. Lord of the Rings, I love Lord of the Rings. But by the time we hit the end, I could care less about Frodo and Sam. That storyline for me was pretty much done. I was caring about everybody else.
All right. I'm logging off. I'll see you later. I could not disagree more with that, but go on.
Oh, I was over them. So in this episode, for me, it's happening the same thing is happening. I don't care about Andor in this episode. I didn't care about Andor in the last episode. How many episodes are we going to get where the story or the show is called Andor, but we don't care about the main character?
He does seem to be on the back burner on his own show. Yeah, which is strange. It's a weird thing. I'm gonna forget that you even said anything about Sam and Frodo at the end of that. We're just gonna move right past that. But I do agree that Andor, yeah, it does seem to be. Oh, he's almost like a background character or like a side character on a show that's named after him.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
more intrigued what's happening with Lucian. I'm more intrigued what's happening, even when I don't like the character about Mon Mothma and her home life in the Senate. Dropping Palpatine's name over and over again. We're gonna see. I think we're gonna see a conflict between Mon Mothma and Palpatine. I think we have to see him. There's been so many mentionings, times they've mentioned him. We have to see him at least once.
That's got to be a scene. That would be such a scene. That would be a memorable scene. Put those two in a room together where he does something to intimidate her or speaks in a way to let her know that he's onto her or something that would be memorable, because we know both these characters. I mean, they were in the original trilogy, even though Mon Mothma has a very small minor role in Return of the Jedi. Her overall presence in the oeuvre that is the Star Wars galaxy and is pretty large. But then I mean, Palpatine is Palpatine. It's like anytime that you can put him on the screen, like just go ahead and do it while we can, right? While we have Ian McDiarmid and he's still willing to put on the makeup and do that voice, let's get him on screen.
I would love a scene where those two are in the office and you just hear breathing off camera.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah.
Where Vader's there, but they're not going to show Vader.
Right.
It's like, Mothma knows Palpatine's got his guard with him.
Yeah.
They don't know exactly like what his deal is. They don't know exactly what's all going on, but he's just back there breathing, and you just know that intimidation level is there. Like, we already know that they're locking up all the finances, so she's going to get found out. She's going to have to leave Coruscant at some point and run. When is that going to take place?
I think canonically we get that with the Rebels episode. Do you remember where Mon Mothma was in Rebels, and there was finally something to where she said she was leaving the Senate and on her own and going into hiding, and she put that hollow out to a bunch of folks. So as far as her break from the actual Senate and her break from Coruscant, we get a little bit. We'll probably, if we get anything, we'll get the moments leading up to her going into that Rebels. But I'm sure because Rebels was a Filoni thing, like they're not going to negate that as canon. I think that's canon at this point.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think they pretty much come out and said anything that was animated is considered canon at this point. Yeah. I'm loving all that. Just the whole prison thing. I think the prison thing is being forced.
Yeah.
They're forcing the storyline of like a jailbreak essentially. I mean, they've done the bank robbery. Now they're doing the jail robber, the jailbreak. They're doing the political intrigue. They're
Yeah.
hitting all these genres within one show, and they're they're 3-episode blocks.
That's exactly what they're doing, and you kind of, you saying that is really kind of put in my head, like, the first 3, I gotta leave planet because the heat's too hard, or the heat's too hot right now. The second 3 episodes are all about the heist, and then the third 3 episodes here are Prison Break, which I think on paper, that sounds kinda cool, and I could get into that, but like I mentioned last week, it's just like, well, now that I know how the show is structured, I'm just waiting for the 3rd week every time we're in this arc
Yeah.
to get some kind of movement and see how the story progresses. And otherwise, it's just lead up. Because honestly, as cool as this prison was, and to see Imperials be bad and find new and inventive ways to keep people down,
Yeah.
all that stuff fit. It's not like I didn't like it. Like I understand and it's cool and all, but it was just like, did we really need all of that in this
Yeah.
episode? You
Do we
know?
need the guy jumping off, off platform, basically committing suicide? Who's
Yeah,
going to be the one that's going to come in? Because the person that comes into that group, table 5, is going to be the one that Andor pairs up with the breakout.
yeah.
They're setting that up. But you want to know something funny that I just thought of this live here?
What's that?
Face Off. The prison. What do they have on in the prison to keep them down?
Oh,
The
those
boots.
boots.
They
That's
lock them
right.
down. So now
That's
they need the
funny.
boots to keep them from being shocked.
That's hilarious. That's really funny. Yeah, weren't they like magnetized in Face
Yeah,
Off?
as soon as they locked down the sub block, everyone got locked down because they're magnets.
Yeah, there you go. Hey guys, if you're too young to know about 90s movies, Face Off, John Travolta, Nick Cage, 1996. Look it up. John Woo
Word
film.
has it that they're remaking it.
Yeah, see the
Yeah,
original
so-
before the remake comes out.
If you can eat a peach, they can eat a peach for a long time.
You would bring that up.
But we going. I see. This was something that kind of gets you guys in behind the scenes here. Sean and I were talking about this before we went live. I heard a lot of talk, and the more I watched the scene, the more I'm like, there may be something to it. Of Mon Mothma's husband not being as swarmy as we think he is, as he is actually working another rebel cell, and they're both being secretive to each other and playing the game with each other as much as everyone else.
Yeah, you brought that up with me. I'd have to ask, I guess, where you're getting that idea, because to me, everything that's been presented so far is that he's kind of scummy, he's kind of swarthy, he doesn't really care about the people, and that eventually, if anything, there's going to be a split between these two, and he's going to end up either betraying her or something. That's
Like,
the feeling that I get. I feel like that's what the show's trying to tell us, but you're saying that basically there's going to be a subversion, and what the show's trying to tell us, there's going to be a switch, kind of a
I think that we know he doesn't live because we know we get no mention of him later on the road.
yeah.
And there's just something to it. Everything seems so clear with the way the show is portraying it.
Mm-hmm.
And even the interaction between him, Mon Mothma, and the other senator that came in during this episode, there was a friendly level to it, to the point where he said, "I'm going to feed myself." And the other guy said, what's the line? Charity starts at home, or something like that. And then you
Right.
see the disconnect. I think those two clearly don't like each other.
Yeah.
But you actually seen a little softness between Mothma and her husband in this episode when they're having their drinks and they're talking. What's today's agenda? I need votes to delay the emperor of doing something.
Right.
So I may be completely off base. And I very well may be, but I feel like the show is being too clear. And sometimes when shows are too clear about something, there's something else going on. What if he's connected to Saw Gerrera
Right.
and we don't know it? So Mothma has Lucian, he has Saw Gerrera, and they have two different mindsets on how to do things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have a weird feeling about it.
This is gonna, if you guys follow us, you'll know this, but this reminds me of Daniel's week during Big Brother, and how like he was like, they're definitely not after my friend. So I'm gonna put up my friend on the block because they're definitely not gonna vote her out. And she ends up going. Daniel was thinking too hard about things that week. And I'm getting that same feeling with you right here. But maybe you're right. I don't know. Sometimes that is the case. That would be surprising for sure, because so far, shows like to hint about those kinds of things. Like they'll kind of have a lasting shot on a character that feels a little too long, or there's certain like language cinematically that a show will do to kind of give you a feeling like, well, something is not right here.
Well, to that mindset though, they run into her daughter, and her daughter looks uncomfortable, like something's up. And then she says, "I'll go find Dad."
Yeah, there is. Okay, I'll give you that. I did notice something with the daughter. The daughter is like there, but not there. And it's like, she's so,
Is she almost the Leia character, the young Leia that we would see at this time frame with Mothma, but it's with her dad?
that I'll give you this. That would be interesting if her dad and her daughter had this kind of very cold relationship towards Mon Mothma because they assume that she actually is this face that she's portraying out, that she's like this like senator that doesn't see what's really going on.
And
Um,
they die when they find out because they're all trying to leave together,
yeah.
and something happens and they die, and that's what makes Mothma hardened to the point where we see her later in the movies.
It's tough though because I don't know if a teenage daughter would have the gumption enough to keep that secret. Like if she really felt that way about her mother, like, hey, you're just a part of this imperial machine and I hate you for that. Like if that was really the wedge between them, that wouldn't be kept a secret. That would be vocalized in like an argument. And Mon
Well, they've already
Mothma,
kind of had like verbal like disputes. I mean, it hasn't come out to that like you're saying there.
yeah,
But I mean, like I said, we have it already in this world where Leia is a character what's already within essentially the rebellion with Mothma,
yeah,
and there could be, we haven't seen her, but there could be a rift because of that. Her daughter wants to be close to her, but she brought in Leia, and Leia is close to her like a daughter.
right.
So there could be those layers in it as well.
It
Maybe
is.
I just know. Maybe I'm just digging too deep into Star Wars things like I typically do. But
I'm gonna keep an eye out for it from now on, and if it ends up being the case, and you're right, then I'll kind of be upset because so far that would have been a nice surprise, and because I'm usually able to pick up on these things, and if they were able to write this in a way where it would be a moment where we're like, oh man, that's what's been going on this whole time. Well, Chris just ruined that for me.
Chris just ruined it. Okay, guys, what did you think? Am I on to something? Am I completely bat crap crazy? I mean, what we can always find out. Am I thinking too much about it? Uh, Let us know. Let us know in the comments. We are always live. We are always loving interaction. Keep an eye out for any type of just posts that we're putting out there, reminding you that we are live at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, sometimes 10:30 like today. Asking for your feedback. I mean, there's gonna be a point where all these shows actually start coming to an end, and we need to know if you want us to cover anything specific. Is there a show out there that you like, that you love us to talk about, that you want to join, our community for? Outside of that, I mean, that's pretty much a wrap on today's show. So, what do you say, Sean? We'll see you next week after the show.
Yep. See you after the show.
There we go. Catch you guys later.